everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I put together this really pretty pink Valentine's Day swag. It's actually easy to make and you can use the instructions to create a swag for any occasion. So let's get to crafting. Alright, so to create my swag I'm going to be using a base. So I've chosen to use a 21-inch ruler stick, or these are like those paint stirrers. You can use an 18-inch or a 24-inch, even a small 12-inch, depending on how long you want your swag to be. So this is what I'm using. Alright, so for my swag, I'm going to be using these florals. I've purchased some of them at Hobby Lobby and others at a different store. I've just chosen flowers that I like, you know, the colors and how they coordinate together. These are all roses, and this one does have a little bit of hydrangea in it. It's really pretty. And then I've also chosen this other filler. It isn't like a plastic, but I think it looks really well with these flowers, including these little smaller, more cream colored flowers as well. And for some greenery, I've chosen two different styles, just like an ivy or type of leaf here. And then I also have like a eucalyptus. Of course, you'll choose whatever florals you like. Just coordinate them as you wish. In order to hang this from the wall, I'll need to add some wire. In this case, I have a chenille stem. You could also use a piece of a ribbon. And I'm just going to tie it around this part up here. This is going to be the top part of my swag. I mean, you could choose this end if you wish. If your stick happens to have a little hole, or if you want to drill a little hole, you can also put it through there. But I'm going to go ahead and tie it around this little, and it sort of gets indented inward, so it kind of keeps it from, you know, sliding out because it's wider over here and wider here. But just to make sure, I'm also going to add some hot glue. So I've wrapped it around, you know, nice and tight, and then I'm going to make a little loop from where I can hang. So I'm just going to take the ends and wrap it around and inward and out. You can just twist it up here and then trim off any ends that you don't need to be on there. Okay, but this is what I've done. See, I've just twisted it amongst itself and created a loop. So now this is going to have somewhere to hang from. Of course, we want all this to dry really well before we move it around. So I'm going to let that happen, and then I can turn it around and actually put my florals on the other side of it. So I'm just adding an extra glue here, just like that, and then I'll turn it around and I'll use this side to add my florals. So this will be on the back of it, and then I can hang it from there. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and I'll show you how I start creating the sprays of florals that will go on here. Alright, so before I begin, I go ahead and remove any tags, and then I'm going to want to cut off my flowers at their longest point and cut the stems off the bushes at their longest point. Now, you may have already bought flowers that are in single stems, but the best purchase to the, you know, for your money is to buy it on a bush. So all I'm doing is cutting off, and if you know how many flowers you want to use, just cut that many. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and cut them all off, and they'll be ready to use in another arrangement if I don't use them all. So I'll go ahead and do that for all of the bushes that I have here, and then we'll start building the sprays. Now here I have some flowers and some greenery that I've already picked out to start off my swag, and I'm going to work from the bottom of my swag upward and make it fuller as I go. So to start off, what I want to place here is I'm going to grab something, you know, that has a small floral or a small leaf that'll hang at the very end of the swag, so that then as I go up I can build a little bit wider. So I'm going to grab this little flower here. I'm going to remove some of this greenery that I don't need. It's a little too much. Maybe I'll even take off, yeah, let's take off a little bit of flower, which I can then, you know, later if I want to use it, I can go ahead and just let's see, let's grab them, let's cut them off like this because they don't want to come off. Okay, so we're going to take that off. I'm just going to thin it out a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and take some of this eucalyptus, and I've already cut off the stems off the bush, but then it's got extra little bits here, and I didn't want to separate those because I didn't want to have a bunch of tiny little bits left over and just kind of, so I thought it would be best to leave them on this one stem. So I'll cut them off as I need them. Okay, so this one here, I'm going to put at the very end. This is the very tip. It's going to hang off. And then I'm going to put a small flower there. And then I'm going to choose like a focal flower, which is going to be this darker pink, really beautiful color. And put that on top like that. And then I can choose to add, you know, whatever other items I want. And obviously I have some of that ivy that I also want to put on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some floral wire and some floral tape. I'm going to take this nice green tape and this green wire. This is a 24 gauge floral wire. And this is just a typical green floral tape. Okay, so I'll start wrapping these up. What I like to do is I like to put wire and tape, but you could skip the wire and just use some tape and then just wrap around the two stems. Place the stem where you want it in contrast to the other, you know, like the leaves, for example, this greenery. Put it in whatever position you want. And then you can start wrapping it up with the tape. And what you do is you pull on this floral tape. That releases the adhesive. And then as I keep pulling on it, I keep wrapping downward and pulling. And then I'm pressing it as well. So making sure that adhesive on the tape is sticking to, so I'm overlapping the tape also. So it's sticking to the other previous rolled piece of tape there. So you just rip it off and there you go. You see how that just stays together, and you don't have to use so much wire if you don't want. Now you want to make it a little bit more stable, or if you have a stem that's a little too short, like let's say I wanted to add this on there, then I could wrap wire on here and give it a length with that same wire. But also, if let's say I want to add this piece and it's got a, like I said, it's got a little short stem, I could also use the wire to just wrap it all up like that. That gives it a little bit more, you know, where to grab and something that makes it nice and tight. And then I could wrap it up with a tape to hide all of that, okay? Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this one because I don't really want that here. I could also add it on later just by adding a little bit of hot glue and then tucking it in wherever I want. Okay, but that was just an idea of what you can do with the wire and the tape. It also makes everything a little more secure, like I said. So you could opt just for the tape or wire and tape. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that with this. So I'm gonna take my little my little wire and just go down the length here. I don't have to go all the way down because I'm only tying up to here. And sometimes even that will get shortened. So I'm just wiring it and then gonna work my way back up. Make sure I press that little edge of the wires down into the florals. Don't let them be sticking out. You'll poke yourself and get blood everywhere. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with some floral tape, just like I did the other one. Just like that. That's my cat. Always on cue whenever I'm busy doing a video. He has to chime in. Okay, so now what I want to do to this flower right here is I want to bend it up a little bit like that because I want to be able to see it. I don't want it flat. Okay, and then everything else, just kind of spread it out if you know you're able to. So it's not like all like really condensed against each other. You want to spread things out a little bit. Look how pretty that already looks. Okay, so now we can go ahead and continue adding, you know, whatever other florals or greenery. Let me grab some of this beautiful leaves here. I'm going to take off one bit of the leaves here. Let me go ahead and cut it off like that. And then I can place this, and I'm kind of want these leaves here to kind of hug that rose right here. So that's where I want it, just like that. Piece of wire, and I'm cutting about 5 or 6 inches of wire. You could probably get away with 4 if it's just you're just doing a little bit, but 5 or 6 inches to make sure you got it wrapped around nice. Again, make sure those little ends are, you know, flat against the stems. You don't want those little wire bits sticking out. Now I don't have to tape it all the way down, just a little bit, because you know I don't want to waste too much tape doing all this, and then I might end up trimming that anyway. So look how pretty that's looking now with the leaves on it. And then just keep adding and building. And now what I want to do with this one, I'm also going to go ahead and remove some because I don't want it to be too heavy down here. So I'm going to trim, you know, some of this off. And then again, like I said, I can take these little bits and glue them into different places. So now what I want to do is I want to start fanning it out. So I'm just going to bend it a little bit like that because I want it to be about right here. Okay, and again, wire. And then of course the tape. So let's get that on here and wire that bit. That end, and then the end that's left out, this, you know, before you wrap up the whole thing, you start bringing it back up this way. Okay, so tape. Okay, there we go. Place this down so that you can look at your little creation here, see what you've done, and bending that. There we go. So you want to choose flowers that have wire that you can, you can bend, okay? So that, this project looks really pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna take this little hydrangea now because I want to go ahead and start whitening it a bit. And look where we are here. Always hold it against your stick. And remember when I put the white little stem on here, it was sticking out about so much. So that's where I want to put that here, where this white is sticking about right there. So that gives me an idea of where I am on my swag and how much more I'm going to have to build. Now I am adding ribbons into this, so that'll take up a lot of space on here. So we'll work on that in just a moment as soon as I'm finished doing this one. But look how pretty that's going to look now. So we're going to go ahead and wire that down and tape it. I'm just going to wrap upward just to make sure, and then back down again just to make sure that it's really nice and tight on there and everything's holding on. Again, bend your flowers so they're facing upward, like forward like that. Look how pretty that looks. That's going to go right about right here. There's the end of my stick. I wanted my flowers about right there. And this is more or less where this is going to go. So I want to add some ribbon in here, and then I want to add another spray, and then maybe another couple of ribbons, and then another spray, and then I'll top it off with one bow at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this because I don't need this to be, all this long. Now, if you want to wrap all of that on there, you can. But I'm just going to go ahead and trim a little bit at a time, obviously. Oops, and they go flying everywhere. This is going to be a little bit more difficult because it does have that plastic rubber, and then the little wire goes right in there, but you can still cut it. Okay, so see, I don't have that long of a stem anymore. So I'll put that right there just for looks, and I'm going to go ahead and start building another spray like this, but I'm going to add now 2 roses, add a little bit more to it and fan it out more, make it wider. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one aside, and let me grab the flowers for that next spray. All right, so I've grabbed more flowers for the next spray, and then I've also got more of the eucalyptus. So the first one I only added 1, and now I'm going to add 2 pieces, and then I'll grab my ivy in just a moment. And then of course I've got my fillers, and this time I'm not going to remove any of the bits from the fillers. I'm going to leave them nice and full because I want this to be fuller. So I'm going to take, I think I'm going to do like a little triangle of roses. So I think I'm going to do 3 roses here like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this out of the way so it's not distracting. So I'm going to start with a rose, and again I'm going to bend it upward, which is what I should have done the very first one. I can remove these leaves, like if you don't like the leaves, remove them. And then of course this beautiful eucalyptus and the other ivy that I bought will add greenery. So again, I'm going to bend it this way outward and make sure my flower is also facing upward. So that's how these are going to meet. They're going to meet like in a little triangle like that. Take the the extra greenery off of that, and I'm going to bend this one as well outward, and then my flower upward. See, this is what I want to create. Okay, now before I put these 2 roses onto this one, I want to add this flower in with it. I want to kind of have them, curve caressing up against each other. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Wire and then floral tape. Again, if you want to skip the wire, you can go ahead and do that. But just to make it everything a little more stable, I suggest you wire it. Okay, I also want to add these little white flowers in there, and I can just put them underneath so that they pop out a little bit like that. I think it's going to go this way because I believe the other ones are on the bottom are going that way a little bit. Okay, we can always adjust flowers, or you know, once we have everything on here, we feel like we need to move things around, we can always adjust our flowers. Oops, and I forgot to put tape, but I'll go ahead and wire in the same spot and then just cover all that up. Now, you could just wire it again, and I mean, well, not again because I didn't say that before. I said you could tape it and not wire it, but now I can give you the option that you could just wire it and not tape it at all. But I feel like you get a nicer, you know, finish. And if you're gonna be like poking in and looking through the swag, then you don't see all these nasty looking wires just wrapping around stems. So you wanna cover that up with a tape. It looks really pretty. It's much more professionally done. And look at that, how pretty that looks. And see, you don't see wires. You can see little ends of the wires sticking out where you can poke yourself. So you wanna do that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue by adding these flowers, and then of course I'm going to add some eucalyptus. These also can be slid up a little bit, so I'm going to slide them up a little just so they're, you know, none of this eucalyptus gets hidden down, you know, under here, and you know, by the extra flowers and such that I'm putting on. So I'll put this one coming out that way, and then I'll put another flower here, maybe one of these hydrangeas. Okay. Again, I'm just going to build it the same way that I was doing the other one. So wire and floral tape, and just put the flowers where you like. Just keep yourself like a little triangle, you know, of flowers. Okay, so make sure that whatever else you put here is going to fill in right here. This is my little triangle. I want to follow that shape. Anything else should fall in there. It could stick out a little bit like this white filler does, but nothing big. Just, you know, small little leaves or small little flowers. Keep your big flowers within their perimeter. Okay, so I'll be back and we'll do another spray a little bit bigger. All right, so I've gone ahead and I put together the last spray of flowers, and it's just a little bit fuller than the previous one here. It looks almost the same, but this is because this one goes long this way. All right, but we can add more flowers to it once we've had them all, you know, laid out on our base and everything's either wire down or glue down, tape down, whatever we want to do. Okay, so I've added this last piece of greenery, and then I'm just kind of directing the leaves so that they're not hiding, you know, some flowers. So just kind of pulling them back behind others, just like that. All right, and then my stem is getting pretty short here now too, so I can't really add too much to it, but I can, you know, hot glue extra flowers in there once I have this all where I want it. So again, my starter, or what actually would be the end, or the bottom end, the hanging, you know, at the bottom. This one here, this one's halfway up, and then another one here. So that's what's going to create my swag. As you can see, it's beautiful, it is nice and full, but I do want to add some ribbons, and I do have these beautiful ribbons that I've bought at Hobby Lobby. I thought they were, you know, pretty well coordinating with each other, and because I do kind of have off-white, you know, flowers, I chose something that had a kind of an off-white background rather than a white. And I thought this kind of a, what is this? This is like a burlap one here. I thought this was really pretty. But of course, you're going to choose your ribbons according to what you like, and you don't have to use 3 different ribbons. You can use just 2, and you can also use in different widths. Okay, so for these, I want something down here, something on the sides here, and then I want a big bow right here. So I'm just going to push this aside here, and I'm going to unwrap these ribbons. And we're going to be using the same floral wire. Of course, you can use chenille stems, but I'm just going to use the same floral wire that I have here. One more here. Now, because I just want little bits sticking out the sides, you know, here on these here. I'm just gonna cut like little bits like that. Okay, let me go ahead and cut that off. Like that. I'm just gonna do a loop like that. Simple loops that I can just tuck in into my swag like that. Little loops like that. Okay, so that's what we're gonna start with by doing a bunch of these in the different ribbons. I'm gonna use all 3 to just make, you know, a few, maybe cut 3 out of each one, and then we'll make a bow. Okay, so I need my wire cutters for this, and I don't need a very big piece of wire, again, just enough to wrap around the ends here of the ribbon and just create little bundles like that. Okay, like that. Just do that. Okay, so like I said, maybe I'll do 3 of each. Let's do 1 out of this one so you can see how that looks. And you don't even have to make them all the same size. They can be different sizes. Just big enough loops that when you tuck them in there, they'll poke out of your flowers like that, okay? You don't want to cut, you know, like a really small loop like that and then you put it in there and it, well, where did it go? I don't even see it. So you want to make sure it's a long enough loop to stick out like that, okay? All right, so I'll go ahead and make 3 of this one, 3 of this, and then 3 of this really beautiful. I love this one so much. But let's go ahead and finish this one real quick. Again, just the ends. This is like the deco mesh is basically what it is. Now that I pulled it out and looked at it, I thought it was like a burlap, but it's actually deco mesh. Look at the ends, you can tell what it is. Okay, so just wrap the wire, and I'm trying to wrap the wire along the up here where they're meeting, and then, you know, just whatever length you might have left over, just wrap it around. You know, like on this one you can wrap it around really well because, you know, it's thinner than this one. So just make your wire pieces long enough so you can create that. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3, 3, and 3. Make as many as you want. But for the very top here, I'm gonna make a nice big bow. So I'm gonna start off with this one. And I want it to have a tail, but I'm thinking that the tails, I'm gonna add them at the end. Excuse me, getting over what I thought was the flu. Turns out it's just allergies, but oh well. I wasn't feeling so good, but I don't know. Anyway, we're going to start off with this one. I'm just going to gather it here in the end, you know, enough slack here so that it doesn't come on, my bow doesn't come undone. And then again, I'm making big loops, a little bit bigger than this one. And just twisting, and always having the pretty side up. Bring it up together. Make sure that they're the same length, yes. Pinch, gather, whatever you want to call that. Twist it. And then just make excuse me, and make as many loops as you want. Had a little chocolate milk. I hadn't had that in a while, so I thought I'd have some. Okay, here we go. And just make as many loops as you want. I think that's good enough for me. I'm going to make 4 because I am going to add these other 2 ribbons, and then it's going to be like super full. Okay, so I'm just going to take some wire or chenille stem, whatever you want to use. Wrap around your bow. Make sure, you know, whatever you cut off, give it enough slack so it doesn't easily pull out. And then I always twist my bow part rather than my wire, because that way the wire is tightening up towards the bow rather than just, you know, tightening down, you know, like twisting into itself this way. Okay, so there's a bow. It's a 4-loop bow, and then I can just poof it up, but I'm not gonna worry about poofing. I'm just gonna show you right now, but normally I don't poof it until I've got it on my, you know, my base or a wreath or whatever I'm gonna put it on. So there we go. This gives me the biggest loops, loops that I want for my bow, the diameter of my bow. And then I'll just go on to the next one and do the same thing, but just make the loops a little bit smaller, and then I'll, you know, whichever one you want to have in the middle, and whichever one you want to have it on top. If you're going to work with 3 different ribbons, maybe you're just doing 2 different ribbons. So then your bow on the top. You know, like you can use 2 different ribbons and maybe you do more loops. You know, maybe you do 6 or 5 rather than just 4. And then use another ribbon to make another smaller bow on top. Okay, what I mean by on top is we'll put it on top at the end. We're going to individually make it just like we did this one. Same with this one. And then we'll put them all together. So before I put them all together, I'm going to go ahead and make those. And make the rest of my little loops like I said I was going to do. And then I'll be back and we'll put everything together. Alright, so I'm back. I've done my bows. I'll bring them out in just a moment so that we can then put everything together. But first I want to add these pieces that I created onto my base on my stick here. So let's move some things out of the way here. I don't know why that's bothering me. But anyway, remember we made the loop on our stick here, so we want to make sure that's downward. And I had said that I wanted the white flower to kind of stick out that much, so that's kind of its place. I mean, it could go a little bit lower, and I might just go ahead and push it down a little bit because I know that I'm going to have just a tiny little space here, so I'm going to use that for to cover it with bow. And if I have to add more stuff, I'll cover it here with, you know, I have more greenery and flowers. Okay, so I said that I wanted to add a tail on my swag, but I thought about it and I decided that I would rather use this mesh in here as the tail because it's really pretty, it's really airy and wispy, and I don't feel like it's going to cover so much of my you know, florals or take away from that if I was to have like a print like this one, even though it works fine. But in my opinion, in my thoughts for my swag, I decided that maybe this one would work. I tried looking at this one. I mean, I could use all 3 if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. So I wanted to keep it light, but I still wanted some sort of a tail coming out of my wreath. So I think I'm going to use this one here. And it's really beautiful because it also kind of does a little curling action here. So I think when it hangs, it's going to look really nice. So I want the tail to kind of come out from here. And then maybe just some smaller bits coming out of over here. So I'll go ahead and cut double, more or less, and I'm just going to cut it like a little bit of an angle. And because it's deco mesh, it might just you know, fray on me a lot, but I'm gonna see how this looks, and then you'll know if you want to do the same thing. So I'm just going to take it at about, let's see, at about halfway point here. There we go, right about here. And then I'll just take a little piece of wire to tie it. You know, you don't really need that. You just glue it down as is. But I'm going to add that. I'm going to add this just to give it that gathered feel up here for whatever reason. Okay, I'm just going to do that. Okay, so we put that to the side now. And what we could do here is we could wire everything down as we add it to our stick here, and then wrap it with floral tape. And I'm talking about the whole thing, right? If you're gonna wire this down, and let's try that, but I'm just gonna hot glue it down. I think that'll be fine. But if you want it to be like really, you know, done really well, I think you should wire down. And you're gonna need a nice long piece of wire. Okay, so we get started here. And I suggest taping, you know, floral taping this end here first so that you don't see the wood. And it doesn't really matter if it does show. But just if you want to have the whole thing end up being like really professional. And why not? Let's just do that. Now that I'm saying that, let's go ahead and wrap it. It's going to be a little bit kind of iffy here because it's kind of hard to stick it to wood. And because it's such a big piece here. So I'm just starting with the end in here like that. And then I'll just wrap it, and it does fold up on me in a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to add little dots of hot glue. How's that? I think that'll be a little bit nicer to hold down the tape, even though it has its own adhesive. Okay, so we can see how this is going to look. Of course, you could always paint it also. But I mean, I don't really think it really needs to be wrapped, but just for a professional's sake of appearing professional. And I do have more tape, and I make sure you have a brand new roll of floral tape before you start any of these floral projects, because you never know how much you're going to need. Don't look at your tape and go, oh, I've got some tape. I don't need to buy, you know, more. You know, go get yourself, you're out there buying your floral supplies, get yourself some more tape. If you only have this, it's not going to go very far. And obviously when you get a new roll, use whatever you have in your old roll first. I don't know why I'm even telling you all those things, but I think it's just some things that you could watch out for because you will need a lot of tape. Okay, so now we're going to put this back where I thought it would more or less go, right there. Yeah, I've actually pushed it down further that way than, you know, where I first started, because I think this was the position. Yeah, and I've gone a little bit further out, so it's like way, I spread out my fingers. Okay, and then we can wire this down, and then of course cover that up with floral tape. But before you put any floral tape, and I'm going to bring these two ends together. So I say cut a nice long piece of wire, and then I'm going to tuck those in, push those inward, and then we're going to use plenty of hot glue, which is what I was going to do at first. I was just going to hot glue these pieces down, but you know, let's secure them a little bit nicer. Okay, so once that's dry, get your tape. I'm going to stick it into the glue there. Get your tape and wrap that up now and cover that up. Make it look nice. We don't want to see any of that ugliness when we peek into our swag, or if you're going to sell it, you know. You want it to look nice. And it's just for yourself, you know, and you don't mind it, like me. I'll do these projects all for myself. Then I don't mind it. Okay, that's going to get covered up with more, so that's good enough. First, I'm going to put some more glue where the tape ended here, just to make sure that little end doesn't pop up. So that's basically it. See how what I did? It's on there. Okay, now I'm going to take this ribbon tails, and I'm just going to put it in there as well. Glue that down. And I actually don't need it to have this long, you know, bit there. So the next time that I put the next item down, it's going to cover that. But again, if you want to be really professional, then put some tape over it. But because this wire on this, from this ribbon that I'm adding here, this ribbon piece, it's not going to show back here or even on the sides, then you don't need to cover with tape, because whatever flowers, I'm just pressing down the wire so it sticks down. It's kind of hard to get this glue from the hot glue to glue onto tape. You have to make sure everything's dry. Okay, I'll leave that there, and then we'll add the next swag piece, because I'm going to make sure this glues down and doesn't pop up. Okay. All right, so we're going to be working with our next piece, and we're going to do the same thing that we did over here. I'm going to place it on here, you know, kind of overlapping this a little bit, just like that. Now, here's where I'm going to wire it and tape it. So if we keep that in mind, look at all this space right here that's not covered with the floral tape. So we're going to need to cover all of this. So this is why I said when we put the next piece down, we're going to need our floral tape anyway, and that's going to get covered. So here we go. Actually, a little bit of glue to hold down that first end of tape, and I'm just going to bring the edge this way, and we'll cover all that up. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to wrap about, I don't know, it was about 5 or 6 inches or so. I'll check it in a minute. I always want to go beyond what you think you're gonna need to cover, because you know, you don't want the stick to show. If you're really going for this look, cover it up. I mean, you could use a pretty ribbon, a little satin ribbon that's not so expensive. This is going to be a lot cheaper, by the way, if you use a floral tape. But if you want to cover it with a ribbon, you know, all this, then just put glue, as you know, obviously more glue than what I'm putting down, so the ribbon stays down and look really pretty in case somebody looks at it from the back. Like I said, none of that's really, you know, gonna show, but it's up to you. Just add some glue, make sure it doesn't come up. Okay, let me see if that's enough. I think it has to be a little bit more, but we'll see. Okay, this is gonna go about right here. Okay, so it's about right here. This is where it starts. So yeah, I need to put a little more floral tape to cover that up. So I'm gonna go down about a couple of inches. And I'm gonna do the same thing, wire it down, glue, and then tape it again. And then I'm going to see where this next one fits. And like I said, I'm going to put another one of these up here as well, but not as long as this. A little bit shorter. It's up to you if you want to do that. The same, you know, the tails. If you want to add more, I'll add a shorter one though. And that'll be it. And then I'll come back once I have this piece down. Like I said, wire it, cover it with tape, put a little bit of ribbon. Do the same thing for this one. Check and see, do I need to wrap even more, which I'm probably going to do now that I'm already here. And this one's going to go right about here. So look, all this needs to be covered with a floral tape before I get to this. So I'm going to go ahead, and when I get this one on here, when I wrap it, I'm going to wrap it further down than I think I need. Alright, so I'll be back so you don't have to see all this and hear me talk more. Okay, so I said I was going to add the last piece, and I haven't done that because I ended up wrapping the floral tape all the way over here. Now, some of you are really observant, and you might have noticed something before I wrapped it up, before I said, okay, I want to finish it off. You may have noticed that I told you to make sure that the little chenille loop is on the back here, facing down. You know, you don't want it up here because you're going to hang it from back here. But somewhere in the process, I ended up with my stick the other way, and my loop was up the whole time. So I started building on top of here. But I think it's when I put the floral tape, and then I didn't notice it when I put it back down. But all I did was I cut it off up here. Thankfully, my loop was like super big. So I just cut off the loop from here, wrapped all this up with greenery, and then I just glued it down to this other side now. I have a smaller loop, but that's okay because the other one was a little too big actually. So just make sure that, you know, you do that. You know, you look, make sure you look where you're having your loop, that it doesn't end up in the front like mine was. Anyway, so that's just something I wanted to point out. And now my loop is in the back, and I finished wrapping the whole thing. So now I can just go ahead and decide where this is going to go. Put some wire and wrap it up, and then we put our bow here, and then we're going to put little loops throughout. And yeah, I did put another little tail here, like I said, a little shorter one. And we can curl it later once we fix everything up. So I'll be back once this is now wired and taped. Look how beautiful that looks. Oh, I love it. Okay, so there we go. Last bit of wrapping. This is what it looks like from behind. Everything nice and neat. There, the stick is nice and neat and wrapped. Like I said, you don't have to wrap it, but if you want to do a really nice job of everything attached nice and secure, without just like seeing just like little bits here and here and here where you wrap it. You know, the whole thing is wrapped. Beautiful. Or just paint it, like I said. Try to match your floral tape. Okay. So the next thing would be like, you know, just fixing everything, making sure flowers aren't being hidden by some leaf, twisting and so forth, and opening. And then you're probably going to want to add maybe some more flowers by, you know, the little bits that were left over. I think I want to add maybe another rose here. I'm not sure, because I might want some things sticking up like that behind the bow. So let's go ahead and grab our bow. And I'm going to grab the printed one, the very first one. And I've got wire here. I could just wrap it around and tie it, but I think I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to take this ends and then just kind of roll them, just spiral them, but you know, flat. And I like to use the flat of the scissors or my wire cutters to press that down. So I have that. And I'm just going to fan this out. I'm not going to poof it up, okay? Because I need to see about where it's going to go. It's going to go about right here. Yeah. And then I'll put lots of glue. And we're just going to glue this baby down. Okay, right there. And then I did another one of the pink here. Do the same thing. and I did one with the mesh as well. We're gonna fan it out. Let me make sure, flatten that up nice. We're gonna fan it out, and instead of putting these right on top of the ones, I'm just gonna twist it a little bit so that it kind of ends up like between, you know, the other loops. So lots of glue, or just wire everything down. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna add this one on top as well. So we want to do the same thing, and look at this one, you don't even have to poof it up. This deco mesh just kind of poofs up on its own. Trying to get the glue off my fingers. Okay, lots of glue, and then put that one on top of that one. There we go. Try to get the loops to go in places where, alright, okay, opposite of kind of what's already on there. Okay, so we're gonna let this all dry really well. Got more glue here because I feel like I needed a little bit more to hold all this. It's super, super kind of building upward here. And now we're gonna take these other loops that I made, like here's this one for example. We're gonna take these and we're gonna add lots of glue in there, but we're gonna decide where it's gonna go first. Like I think I want this one like about right in here, but make sure when you glue it down that it's actually gluing down onto something and it's not just like some really loose leaf or something. Just get in there and make sure it's something nice and tight. There's a nice tight leaf in there and a stem in there. So I'm gonna pour some glue in there and then poke that in there. Okay, and then just leave it and let that dry. Put all the rest of your little loops wherever it is that you want to put them. Decide where they're going to go. Pour lots of glue in there. Push it in. And then just leave it alone. Let it dry. And once we're done, you know, everything's dry, we'll poof up everything. We'll poof up our bow. You know, all these little loops. As you can see, the mesh here doesn't really need any poofing. It's already poofed. Okay, so I'll be back once it's all done, and we'll see what else we can put on it, if anything, or just leave it alone. Okay, so I'm adding these the remainders of these little loops just right in here, and then I added another one of the loose loops. I added one in the top here because as it was getting thinner going downward, there was like too much, and then I had a lot of this mesh one up, down, all this down here because, you know, the tails that are hanging down. So that's why I added the extra leftover one here. The pink one, the 3 pink loops, I did get to use them 1, 2, 3 down here, but the floral one and this mesh one I ended up adding around the top bow. So now I'm just doing is poofing up my loops on my bows, making everything look pretty. And then once I've done this, I know now that I don't need anything sticking up through the top here, because see how the loops all cover, you know, they cover up this part here. This is not sticking up anymore, so it looks really pretty. A nice big bow. Now if you don't want such a big bow, make it smaller, and then maybe add some leftover greenery, which, you know what, maybe I will. So it kind of just adds a little bit of that green up here. It looks really pretty with that in there, so I'll probably do that. And then any extra little pieces that I have, like these bits here, I can add them here and there just to make everything look a little bit fuller. Now, because this is a Valentine's Day wreath, I do have this cute little heart that I got from the Dollar Tree. So it was only $1.25. I don't need this. I could use this little ribbon, you know, to hang it, you know, somewhere on here. But I think I'm just gonna kind of like glue it down somewhere. Maybe a little bit of an angle. Just glue it down on little spots here and there. Let's see how that will look with the pretty little, what is this? It's a little heart. If they had a smaller one, I would have liked it. It was like maybe 3 different sizes or smaller ones to add, you know, like here and there. And I know they have the kind that are like on a little pick. You can use that, but I just thought this was so pretty. Maybe you just want to tie it down, and then after Valentine's Day, you know, kind of like snip it off and remove it so that you have a spring swag. So that's up to you what you want to do. I am going to go ahead and take my own little advice here and just cut these little greenery leaves here. I don't know what they are. They look like maple leaves or something, but they're not maple, obviously. They're a different kind of an ivy, I don't know, pothos kind of a leaf. And I'm just adding a little bit of glue and tucking them here and there, and that kind of covers up a little bit of the wires on that mesh ribbon on the top. You know, run out of glue real quick. Let's not tape, but let's glue that in really well. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to add a few more. And so let me grab another bunch here, and then just cut off leaves kind of short. You don't need the long little stems, okay? Because that plastic gets melty. These little stems here with a hot glue, they get very melty. So when you stick them in, they're just going to be all kind of wobbly. So you want to get the glue really on the fabric of the leaf, so you don't really need that stem. So just cut that off. Oh, there goes my hot glue gun. This just breaks up, you know, too much of that pink and, you know, beigey colors that are up here on the bow, and adds a little green to it. I think I want to add a little bit more down here. And then I also need to poof this loop. There we go. I don't think I poofed that one up. And I'm going to add some more of these bits also. Just put plenty of glue on them. Tuck them in wherever you think you're going to need that. So I'm just going to do that. And then I've got another one of these as well. For example, somewhere up here. Any little flowers like this that come off and you put them back on, put a little bit of glue so they don't fall back off. Okay, so that's basically what it's looking like. I'm going to add just a little bit more, maybe on the sides here of my swag. And that's it. And more of these little bits of the little flowers. And then that's it, and we'll go hang it up so we can see how it looks with or without the heart. Alright everyone, I have completed my swag, and I've poofed up all the little ribbons and add just a few more little touches, and they're not too much. And I've gone ahead and I've just used the ribbon that's on the little heart to kind of wrap around that one little rose, so that's how it's attached, and it can come off easily, so that then after Valentine's we have a beautiful spring swag. So let me go ahead and just grab that little ribbon right off of there, and that comes off. And there you can see how pretty that looks. Really pretty for spring. And this is why I've chosen pink, because, you know, pink is lovely for Valentine's Day and of course for spring. So you know what? I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment down below. Let me know what you think of this week's Valentine's Day video. And if you're liking my content and you haven't subscribed, I'm going to ask for you to please subscribe to my channel. Just hit that red subscribe button, and then you'll see a notification bell, and you want to click on that and choose all, so that you get notified of all of my videos as soon as I load them up. I want to thank you all very much for watching my video and being very patient with my instructions today and with my voice. I'm sure I'll get better. Thank you all so very much for your lovely prayers and your well wishes. I am getting better. Thank you all very much. And as always, enjoy.